Water for Elephants. Water for Elephants.
Reese Witherspoon.
Reese Witherspoon and R. Pats, and of course Christoph Waltz, who I think is now referring to himself sometimes as Christopher Waltz, but Christoph Waltz, who we've all seen, who rose to everyone's attention. He won the Oscar for Inglourious. So the story is, it's based on a novel by Sue Gruen, which I haven't read, but the screenplay is by Richard LaGravenese, who's been around for ages and has done things like Fisher King, Little Princess, Bridges of Madison County, Horse Whisperers. A very fine screenwriter. The story begins with a sort of elderly gentleman turning up in modern day to see a circus, but the circus has apparently, it's all happened, it's all gone, and he's standing out in the rain, and they're trying to find out where he comes from, and if they can get him back to the home, and they can't find where he is. They say, oh, well, come in, sit down. Oh, do you know anything about circuses? And he says, well, it's funny you should, because do I know anything about circuses? I used to work for circuses. When did you used to work? I worked for the Benzini brothers. No, not the Benzini. What year did you work for Benzini? That year, that was the year of the worst circus accident of all time. Tell us the story. Blah, 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 blah. So it's one of those really old-fashioned...
Is that a screen wipe you just did?
But it's lovely.
Do the screen wipe noise again.
Blah, 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 and then so he starts talking, and then his voiceover turns into the voice of R. Pats. R. Pats, we see, just getting towards the end of his veterinary...
Robert Pattinson, by the way.
Robert Pattinson.
Just joined us.
Yeah. I think everyone who knows who Robert Pattinson is knows who R. Pats is.
Yeah, but if you just say R. Pats, it might be that they don't know who Robert Pattinson is.
Oh, I see, fine.
If you start with Robert Pattinson and then go R. Pats, then people will.
Okay, I stand corrected. Known to many people from the Twilight films, known to fewer people from Remember Me, the rather ill-judged drama tragedy from last year. And, of course, I think, wasn't he first... He was in one of the Harry Potters. Wasn't he...
Yes, he was...
Cedric.
He was Cedric Diggory.
He was Cedric Diggory, small part of Cedric.
Who didn't last to the end of the film.
He didn't, no.
Spoiler alert.
Exactly, yes, sorry. That was another unfortunate incident. So we cut to him. He's about to take his veterinary exams. Unfortunately, he then discovers that his parents have been killed in a car crash, and he doesn't own anything. The bank have taken back the house. So he does the only thing a young man in his situation can do. He hops on a train. He jumps a train to get out of town. The train he jumps on turns out to be the train of the Benzini brothers. And very quickly, he finds out that there is circus work to be done. I mean, there ain't no work anywhere else, because people keep saying things like, don't you know we're in the middle of the Depression? In the way that I imagine people walk around saying, don't you know we're in the middle of World War II? Don't you know we're in the middle of the 100 Years' War?
There's a war on,
That's right. Look, here comes the Renaissance. Excuse me, it's the Age of Enlightenment. So there's a lot of that. And the circus is being run by Christoph Waltz, who is Christoph Waltz doing the Christoph Waltz performance, which is that he's smiling and sophisticated and pleasant, and there's a really dark, nasty side to him. And his wife is Reese Witherspoon, who is the circus's star attraction, doing a horse act. The horse very early on is diagnosed by R. Pats as not being in a fit state to carry on, so they need a new act.
What's wrong with it?
It's not in a fit state. It's got laminitis, actually.
What is it, and what's that?
Laminitis, it's when I only know this from the film, it's when the bone, the cartilage has been compromised underneath the hoof, and therefore eventually the bone will come through the skin, and there's nothing that can be done about it.
That doesn't sound good.
No, so the horse comes to a sticky end, although it's all done rather tastefully. And then they need a
sticky yet tasteful end.
No, yes, I mean, that's actually one of the less well handled moments in the film. They need a new attraction. They find an elephant, or as it's referred to in the circus, a bull. It's a bull elephant. Here's a clip.
Children, meet our salvation. We got ourselves a guaranteed sellout, crowd-cheering bull. Her name's Rosie. She's 53, and she's brilliant.
What's that in her mouth?
She ran off. They found her eating a cemetery plot. I'm going to come up with a whole new star act around you and her.
Darling, I'm not getting up on that. I've never ridden an elephant in my life.
You didn't know how to stand on top of a galloping horse until I showed you. You're a fast learner. This act will go through the roof.
Where the hell are we gonna put it?
We'll make room.
How are we gonna pay for it?
Look, I won't pay them in for a few weeks. We've done it before. Once we start selling out the mill, we'll have more cash than they know what to do with. So she's gonna pack them in. I know it.
He does have an extraordinary voice, Christoph Waltz. And in fact, even just hearing that clip, you think, I could hear him speak through the rest of the movie. I mean, when you hear his voice, you can immediately see all those facial expressions. I mean, he does have a very, very expressive face. The way in which he can do that, he smiles, but it looks like it's a deathly smile. It's very sort of charismatic. He is one of those people who genuinely lights up the screen. And in many ways, he is the film star act in the way that Reese Witherspoon is meant to be the star act of the circus. Christoph Waltz is obviously the ace card that this film has up its sleeve. I think the other two performances are perfectly fine. In fact, the way that the film pans out, I was trying to say this earlier on, is it's a love triangle, but in fact with the four-sided, because it's the husband, the wife, the guy who looks after them, and the elephant. And the elephant, there's a lot of elephant stuff in the film, and you can go along for anything. You can go along to see Arpat, you can go along to see Christoph Waltz, you can go along to see Wiesbaden, or you can go along to see the elephant. The funny thing about the film is it would be very easy to mock it. Firstly, it has a title, which is, Water for Elephants is not, it may have worked as a book, it's not an easy sell as a title. And it has a very old-fashioned style poster, which is Arpat's embracing Reese Witherspoon with Christoph Waltz standing in a doorway a little way off, literally wearing a pair of jodhpurs, looking cross as if he can see that there is something happening between his wife and this new rapscallion who has arrived on set. And what's the elephant going to do about it? So all that stuff is going to set up in the... But... In as much as it being an old-fashioned throwback romance movie, it's done rather well. It's well directed, it's well written. The set design and the design of the movie in general is very well handled. They do get a real sort of carnivalesque feel of it. There's a couple of scenes in which you see the circus being put up, in which you see the construction, you see everybody turning up. A lot of it is set on the train that the circus is moving from town to town upon. But just the incidental period detail is very well handled. Just the costume and the design. And it's one of those movies, like I said, an old-fashioned kind of movie. When you look at the screen, there's loads of stuff going on. There's loads of attention to little details. So although the story itself is very, very cliched and knowingly cliched, particularly in the wraparound, but when you get to the end, there's a sort of noise in the screening that I saw, which was somewhere between a groan and a sigh. It's kind of like, oh, all right, that's fine. We'll let you get away with that because it's that old kind of throwback movie. Interestingly enough, from Robert Pattinson's point of view, it's a much better role for him than Remember Me was. I could imagine somebody like Zac Efron, who I also think is very much an old-fashioned movie star in that mould, doing this kind of role. Reese Witherspoon is terrific, and he's always been a very charismatic presence. Some of the animals, there's a couple of moments in it in which you can see the CGI around the edges, but generally you do get the great carnivalesque. There's one shot in which he is taken all the way through the train, and each carriage has got different performers, and one's got the burlesque performers, one's got the acrobats, one's got the clowns, one's got and they do it pretty much. It looks like a single shot. Obviously, there'll be work done on it, but you do get that sort of thriving hubbub feel. So yes, it's very corny. Yes, it's very saccharine sweet and all the rest of it, but it's done in a way which is charming, and I was never bored. And it was a charming old-fashioned film in a good sense. For all the things that are cheesy and wrong with it, I enjoyed it. And Christoph Waltz just gives it that edge of spice, that nasty sort of, this thing might actually bite. And if it wasn't for him, I think it would be much more of a soppy confection. But actually, with him, it just balances it out nicely.
What would be a better title?
Water for Elephants. Well, anything. Don't Mess with the Zohan is a better title. Don't you think? Water for Elephants.
Well, I thought it was quite off-putting.
Yeah.
Particular. If you're a fan of the book, then obviously it's going to be exactly the thing that ties you in.
Okay, how about It's Me or the Elephant? Trunk Call.
No, well, that just sounds as though it's going to have Matthew McConaughey in it, and he's going to be leaning against the elephant, and the elephant is
comically,
and the elephant is going to be looking and thinking.
I should say, there are a couple of sort of quite dark scenes, because obviously one of the things about the Christoph Waltz character is, whereas Robert Pattinson is the vet who believes in being nice to the animals, the Christoph Waltz character just believes in working them even unto the grave, and so there are some scenes of cruelty that are quite tough, as they're meant to be, but the whole thing generally has quite a sort of a sort of Miller-time glow about it. It's all a little bit orange and soft around the edges in a way which is kind of charming.
Me and the Elephant was a song by Gene Cotton, I think.
Yeah, that's right, it was, wasn't it? But I can't remember how it went. It was
sort of a break-up song. Me and the Elephant will never forget you.
That's right, yes.
The tigers forgot you, the zebra forgot you, and the lions and the tigers too.
But me and the elephant will never forget. Well, that's it.
What, that's it, is it?
Marley and the Elephant.
No, it's getting worse now.